And welcome back. Let's go ahead and continue looking at interfaces by this time diving into the serializable interface. So as we've already noted, the designers of Java often use the interface mechanism to take care of the miscellaneous details that don't necessarily fit the spirit of what an interface is supposed to be. An extreme example of this is the serializable interface. This interface has no method headings and no defined constants, which if we think about how we've traditionally have done our interfaces up to this point, it's kind of pointless because it doesn't have that same spirit. However, Java often uses it as a type tag, which means the programmer gives permission to the system to implement file I/O in a particular way. And we have, of course, discussed some of these mechanisms back when we looked at file I/O. So let's look at an example of how we could use the serializable interface. So the code below shows a class that implements the serializable interface. So I have import java.io serializable, public static class student implements serializable, public string name equals null, public string department equals null, public int ID equals 0. The one thing to note about this is that the student class implements serializable, but does not have any methods to implement from serializable, because remember, again, this interface doesn't have any defined methods. Instead, we can look at this as a marker interface. The serializable interface is, of course, part of the java.io package, and what does I/O deal with? Input, output. So because it's a marker interface, we typically use these to say these are a special type of interface. They don't have any methods or fields associated with them. Classes implementing the serializable interface do not have to implement any methods. Classes can implement the serializable interface if they want their instance to either be serialized or deserialized. So what's the difference between these two terminologies? Well, serialization is simply just a mechanism of converting the state of an object into a byte stream. Serialization is done, of course, using object output stream. Deserialization is the reverse process where the byte stream is used to recreate the actual Java object in memory. This mechanism is what we use to kind of help that object persist. Now, deserialization is using object input stream. All right, and we're over in Eclipse. Now let's go ahead and take a look at that. So I create a quick class here, and we have a serializable class, and of course we're just feeding in here a quick method. That's there's our constructor right here, and we are passing in parameters, and then we have a tester here that's going to go ahead and do this. Now this is a little different than what we have seen with some of our file, but that's okay because we want to demonstrate this object output stream and output input stream with this serialized class that we have here. And when I run this, all right, we get 20 and some text to be displayed. And we also, of course, have this text file here. All right, so this text file is what is being written out to. If I open up that text file, you can see we got some things in here that don't quite make sense. Because remember, this is, of course, doing that byte instruction. Whereas when we then read it back in, so we deserialize it, that is taking that data and putting it into something that we can actually interpret. Again, this is something that we've kind of already seen when we work with binary files. But here we simply just broke it apart into their own independent lines. Because remember, you can pass things into certain arguments, or you don't have to. In this case, we simply just broke it apart. And again, the big thing here to note with this class is this implements serializable. There is no methods that we have to use for the serializable interface. But again, this is something that often happens when we're working with byte instructions such as this.